Hey everyone, Scott here, better known as Narebo, and today I'm going to show you how to draw the American Airlines livery on a Boeing 787-8. Now, this is one that I've drawn before, and I remember from past experience that it was extremely difficult. Well, I should say it wasn't extremely difficult, it was just tedious. There's so much to this livery, and it's hard. It's definitely one of the most difficult liveries to create. You're going to need a lot of time to do it. This one took me about 2.5 hours, and I've sped this up to approximately 1,000% to get it down to about 13 minutes or so. And yeah, so it's tough, but I'm going to show you. Anyway, this template that I'm using is mine that I created. You can get it by going over to my website, norebo.com. There's a link to it down in the description below. So it's all free, and there's tons of templates over there. So just get what you need, and you can draw airplane templates or airplane liveries forever. It'll keep you busy for a while. So I'm starting with the tail here, and this is by far the most complex part of this livery. It's a stylized American flag, of course. And I started doing it in vector shapes in Adobe Illustrator, but then I realized that there's so much gradient elements, or there's so many gradient elements to it, that it's easier to do in Photoshop, for me at least. I mean, some people would probably prefer doing this in Illustrator, but, you know, as artists and designers, we all work differently. So just do whatever it is that you're comfortable with, but for me, it's Photoshop. And once I realized that, I just got busy working on the flag elements themselves. And I personally would have loved to know how they came up with this livery design. It's so abstract and it's so complex. I can't even imagine how they did it or how they came up with it, but it looks great. And when it first came out, I didn't think that I liked it all that much. It was a little bit too abstract and a little bit too, I don't know, I don't want to say weird, but it was definitely different and not the way I would have represented an American flag. But over the years, it's grown on me, and yeah, I can't really say anything bad about it. But it would have been completely different if I would have, or if you would have asked me many years ago, at least when it first came out. So running through all of these sections here on the vertical stabilizer was very time consuming, like I said, and I'm just guessing at colors at this point. I couldn't find an exact color palette. There was nothing on the internet that I could find that said explicitly what all of these different colors are, so I'm just guessing. I just took a photo that I found on the internet, one that was fairly side-on and had a decent color profile, and as you can see, the colors in the photo that I'm referencing aren't all that great, actually. So what I'm doing is I'm just sampling the colors here in Photoshop directly from that photo, and then I'm taking a little bit of an artistic license to brighten them up, not make them so dull, and it seemed to work out pretty well. And let me tell you, as I'm drawing this is about the time or the phase in this drawing where I started to realize that this looks weird, and I didn't really know if I was drawing this correctly. It just, for some reason, I guess I was staring at it for too long or something, but it just seemed like I was just doing something wrong, and it just wasn't right. But, you know, you just got to trust the process and go through it and run through the entire thing and just copy what you see in the photo, and it'll all work out. It always does. I've done so many of these airline livery illustrations over the years that I just know that it just always works out. No matter how weird it looks as you're drawing it, you realize you're going to get to the end and it's going to be okay. And I tell you what, by this point, I was sick and tired of working on these blue gradient elements. This took a long time, and I'm just doing this by eye. I'm not getting the ruler out. I'm not doing any math here. It's just trying to get it as close as I can, using the red blocks and the gray blocks on the right side as my guide to the thickness of the blue gradient stripes, which were all completely random, by the way. If you look at them, there's no rhyme or reason to them. Some have 4 blocks, some have 3, especially as you move up to the top end of the vertical stabilizer. and they're all various thicknesses. There's just, like I said, there's no rhyme or reason to this, and it was just maddening trying to do it and trying to copy and trying to replicate what they did. But I did it. Looks like I've got it all there, and I'm still in Photoshop, of course. I'm trying to add in the transition element here, the gray stripe, and I kind of messed up there. I didn't really want to say anything about that, but as you can see, that transition between the vertical stabilizer and then the lower fuselage there, that space, or that white area, that transition is a little bit narrow, but that's okay. And just to fill you in on a little secret here, when it comes to doing airline livery design, you're not always going to get it right. There's always going to be something that's just not quite right, that you just can't get, or it just doesn't quite fit the template you're working with, and it's okay. No one's going to notice. No one's going to call you out on it unless you mess up really bad. But if you look at all my airline livery illustrations, there's always at least some element that's a little bit off or just not quite right. But that's okay. This is art. It's all handmade. It's okay to make mistakes. It's not going to be perfect. You just got to do the best you can, and you will get better over time. I've improved so much over the years. When I first started, like I said, I created this American Airlines livery for the first time way back in 2015. And if you look at the way that I did that back then, this is a massive, massive improvement. Okay, so now I was never able to find the American Airlines font or the titles in vector format on the internet. So it's okay. You just take a high resolution photo, fairly side on, or the best side view that you can get, and you just do it yourself. It's going to take time. You just need to roll up your sleeves. You need to do it. And by tracing these elements, you get to be a better designer and to be a better illustrator. I've said that before in my other videos. You just got to practice and do it. And 5 years ago, when I first created this American Airlines livery, the thought of tracing these letters in Adobe Illustrator was scary. I didn't think that I could do it. And I thought, there's no way that I could trace those with any sort of accuracy, and it would just be a mess. And it was just, I was so worried to do it. Just tons of anxiety. But now, 5 years later, I've reached a point where I'm fairly comfortable in drawing shapes with Adobe Illustrator. And I'm just in here with the pen tool, drawing and tracing as best I can. So, and as I said, it's not going to be perfect, and it's okay not to be perfect. Just remember, this is all handmade art, and you got to do what you can do, and not everyone has rock star skills when it comes to this sort of thing. And that's fine, because once you get it built into the template, it's going to look great. It's going to look amazing, and no one's ever going to know the difference. So, looks like I got it there. I just need to punch out some holes in the lettering. And as you can tell, just making a few minor adjustments here. And, it's not perfect. Just, working on the thickness of each letter, because this is all handmade. I wasn't using any grids as guides or anything. It's just everything was done by eyeball, which is definitely good enough. So I'm almost there, and this is looking pretty good. And again, typography is so tough. It's one of the most difficult things to replicate in any livery design. Maybe this particular American Airlines livery, it's actually one of the easiest parts of it. The tail that was definitely the most difficult part of this. But as you can see, it's coming together. It's starting to look like the actual thing, and it's just a matter now of adding in the details, like the colors on the engines there. We're going to add some gloss to it, and that's super easy to do with my templates, because you can separate all of the elements individually and then just focus on the part that you need to. So definitely take advantage of that if you can. So now the last part, which is drawing the actual American Airlines logo itself, which, I'm still kind of divided on. It's not the nicest logo. I was never really a big fan of this. But again, just like the tail design, this is growing on me a little bit. So that being said, I'm just getting in here and replicating it in vector format in Adobe Illustrator. So drawing the shapes out first, just with the pen tool. And then I'm going to go back in a moment and then add the gradients here in Adobe Illustrator. So I don't have to do anything in Adobe Photoshop. this is all Illustrator here, and it would just be kind of too messy if I took the basic shapes and then brought them back into Photoshop and added the gradients there. Then I'd have this logo with many layers. It would just be too messy. It's just not worth it. So it's a simple enough logo that you can do in Adobe Illustrator or whatever drawing program that you're comfortable with. It certainly doesn't have to be Adobe Illustrator, but yeah. Okay, so now we've got the shapes drawn, and we're just going in and adding the gradients. So this is all Adobe Illustrator again, and I'm just sampling the colors directly from that logo, which I just got off of Google. That's just a PNG file, and I'm taking the colors directly from that. So they may not be 100% accurate, but close enough. That's fine. I don't mind. As long as it looks good to me, it's good for anything else. So I do believe that's it, and just copy and paste it back into Photoshop. And I'm leaving it as a smart object in Photoshop, so if I ever need to adjust the scale or the size, it's super easy to do. And now adding the registration, and that typeface is Euro style, by the way. Maybe. I'm not 100% certain on that, but it's a font that's close enough. And just like I said in my Scoot Airlines livery that I did earlier this week, it's a font that works with many different airline liveries. So again, adding in some detail there in the nose gear. And what am I doing now? Oh, the gloss, like I do with all my airline livery illustrations. Get that hard edge in there, which is just a vector shape that I drew in Adobe Illustrator. And I'm just using that as a mask to get that hard cut line down through the center of the aircraft. And then on the bottom of that, I can do a transparent black gradient going down. And then above it, I would do a transparent white gradient going up. And as you can see, it creates a really nice hard reflection there. So it makes it look more like a reflective glossy tube. So again, it's just like all the little details that make a difference. Adding some window blanks here. Again, easy to do with my templates because you could just isolate the windows and copy them and create the different, the blanks versus the actual windows. And it's all super easy to do with my Photoshop PSD templates. And by the way, if you want access to those at 50% off, join my discount club. Link down in the description below. You don't have to pay full price for my templates or my source files, the PSDs and the vectors. So make sure you do sign up for that below. And as a gift, you'll get 50% off your first order, no matter how much it is, on any of my aircraft template source files. So. Okay, so the aircraft template is done. Oh, sorry, the livery design or the livery painting is done. And now I'm adding in the background. And sometimes this takes a long time. You've seen me struggle in some of my other illustrations in the past. But this one was just super easy. I stumbled across something or a design that looked great very quickly, like within 5 minutes. And I love when that happens. It's very rare. It's not something that happens very often, so I appreciate it when it does happen. And yeah, that looks great. I love that. Just an abstract version of the American Airlines logo. So that is it. That is the American Airlines logo or the American Airlines livery on a Boeing 787-8. Beautiful livery and not an easy one to draw. It's not, well, I should say it's not that bad. You just need to have patience. Just take your time with it. Know it's going to take a long time, and you'll be able to get it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.